Good day, folks, and welcome to Conservation Update with Spirit of Marikwe. So in today's episode, we're going to be looking at a very interesting scenario that illustrates just how sensitive ecosystems are, and how interconnected everything is. So let's jump right in. Now, today's story takes place in Kenya on the African plains. And in Kenya, they've got the predominant tree cover is a species called a whistling acacia, or a whistling thorn tree. And inside this thorn tree is a very interesting thing that happens. So as you can see in this image here, you have ants that live in the trees, and they build their colonies in the trees. Now this has got some interesting effects, because what they do is they bite the trees, and it causes the thorns to swell up, and then they make their little colonies inside these hollow thorns. Now, this has got a knock-on effect on the ecosystem, because what happens is when elephants come to predate on the trees, the ants will actually bite the elephants, and they don't like that. The other factor is while these ants are on the trees, they release formic acid, which makes the trees taste bad. So it deters the elephants from destroying all the trees. It keeps the elephant grazing in check. But in recent years, something interesting has happened. So these guys have invaded Kenya. They come from the Mauritius island, and they're called the big-head ant. Now, the normal ants on the acacia trees do not, they only eat small invertebrates, so other insects, basically. But they don't have anything that predates on them. Now, the big-headed ants are predating on the ants living in the acacia trees. And they are absolutely decimating the population. But now, the big-headed ants don't live in the acacia trees, so the trees lose those benefits. So the end result is the elephants are now decimating the trees in those areas. And this is an interesting thing about how woodlands turn into grasslands. But this has now had another knock-on effect, because it turns out that the tree cover is used by lions when they predate on zebra. They will use the trees as cover, and the zebras will come to the trees for shade, and then they ambush the zebras. Now, the elephants are decimating the trees. So this dynamic has now also changed, which has led to lions not sinking in numbers, but changing their predatory behavior and adapting and rather hunting buffalo. So it's interesting how the introduction of an invasive species of ant can affect the hunting capability and the hunting preferences of lions. So basically how it works is as follows. The black-headed ant kills the native ant. The native ant stops protecting the acacia trees. The elephants decimate the acacia populations. Lions doesn't have the cover to hunt zebra and ambush zebra anymore, so they change their behavior and thus now decrease the buffalo population. So this study conducted by the University of Wyoming has now conclusively proven that this is exactly what happens. And it goes back to the age-old thing in conservation, that an ecosystem is so intertwined, you cannot change anything without affecting the entire ecosystem. Well, we hope you guys learned something, and see us again next week for another nature conservation news video. Have a good one, folks.